right.
We are live.
Excellent.
All right, so let's kick this off. Just want to say thank you to everyone for joining in today. This is our first SuperNova commencement. It's going to be a great chat. We might have some tech glitches today, but bear with us. We're going to figure all this out. We're live streaming to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and I really can't think of a better person, a better guest, a friend to kick things off with today than my friend Rodney Bullard. Rodney, welcome.
Thank you, Kashi. It is always a pleasure to be with you, my friend. Thank you for asking me to do this.
Absolutely. So for all of you who don't know, Rodney is Vice President of Community Affairs and for Chick-fil-A, and also Executive Director of the Chick-fil-A Foundation. Everybody's always excited to see Rodney because he comes bearing gifts, free sandwiches, and lots of great things. So let's kick things off. We're going to give you guys, all the students, let's say welcome to our graduates. Welcome, class of 2020.
Yes.
Congratulations on, finishing up, and it's hard to finish. So it's a big deal that you got through high school or college or wherever it is, grad school. It's all hard. So great job and congrats to you guys. And thanks for joining us. Okay, let us just get started. We're going to kick things off now, but get your questions ready because we're going to turn to you in a little while. Rodney, where did you go to school?
So I grew up here in Decatur, Georgia, and I went to Redan High School, the mighty Redan High School, and then I went off to the Air Force Academy, United States Air Force Academy. And I will never forget graduation. So I truly commend those graduates who are graduating in the class of 2020.
Who was your graduation speaker?
So my graduation speaker actually was the head of the Air Force. President Clinton was supposed to come out and be our graduation speaker because the presidents rotate through the various service academies. And at the last minute, President Clinton wasn't able to come. And so we had the Chief of Staff of the Air Force be our graduation speaker. And that was wonderful. I'm not quite sure if I remember a single thing that he said, but I do remember getting my diploma and throwing my hat up in the air and being ready for the next phase of life.
Yeah. What do you say to all the graduates watching who aren't going to necessarily get to throw their hat up with everybody together, but maybe they could do it in their backyards or on the street or something?
That's right. Yeah. I think that your graduates should find a way to celebrate no matter what, whether it's throwing a hat up in the backyard, whether it is a scream out loud by yourself, whether it is virtual, whether it is with family that you are in shelter with. Find a way to celebrate, and also celebrate the fact that yes, 2020 is a unique time, but you're a unique class. And this is a mark of resilience. This is a mark of fortitude, and you should wear it proudly. And there are stories to tell about being a graduate in the class of 2020.
Absolutely. It's not like any other year, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, so Rodney, tell us a little bit about your path and your journey. How did you end up at Chick-fil-A after going to the Air Force Academy?
Yeah. So I went to the Air Force Academy. I graduated from the Air Force Academy. And when I was at the Air Force Academy, I played football and I was on the mock trial team. And I had prayed that I was going to be All-American, but I wasn't specific. I actually was thinking, Kashi, that I wanted to be an All-American football player. And I ended up hurting my knee. And I ended up being an All-American mock trial attorney.
Wait, what position did you play?
So I played defensive end and outside linebacker, mostly defensive end.
Not messing around.
No, wasn't messing around, but to be frank, Kashi, I didn't play that much. I hurt my knee a couple times, but it was a blessing in disguise. I was able to go out for the mock trial team and And thinking about resiliency, I went out for the mock trial team. And when I got there, they said, we don't really have room for you. And I said, well, can I start my own team? And so I started my own mock trial team, or our own mock trial team. And our mock trial team ended up being one of the best mock trial teams in the country, and I was All-American mock trial attorney, which led me to go to law school at Duke. And so that was a wonderful opportunity to go to law school at Duke. And then I went back into the Air Force, and I practiced law in the Air Force for some time. That took me to places like NASA. It took me to a White House fellowship. It took me all over the country, all over the world. And it was a wonderful, rich experience practicing law, learning about policy. And then I came back home to Atlanta. And when we came back home to Atlanta, I got the chance to work at the U.S. Attorney's Office with Sally Yates and Dave Namias and some real luminary lawyers there. And at some point, I said I wanted to go back to business school because I really enjoyed leadership and I love law, but law is often, at least for me, was practiced in a courtroom with just a handful of people. And so I didn't feel like I was getting the leadership opportunities that I wanted. So I went back to business school. And at the same time, I met Dan Cathy, the CEO of Chick-fil-A. And I tell this story for your graduates. One of the principles that I've always lived by is to ask for what you want and to tell people what you plan on doing. And there'll be people who will say, you know, you shouldn't do that, and that doesn't make sense. But I talked to Dan, and at some point, Dan and I had a conversation about the community, and I asked him if they had a community affairs, if they had a foundation, and he said they didn't. And the conversation led to me coming to Chick-fil-A to start that. So that's how I got to Chick-fil-A in a nutshell.
So you invented your position.
In many ways, I did.
That's pretty bold.
It has been a wonderful ride. You know, it's not the easiest thing. In fact, I think people think giving away money is just that, giving away money. But if you want to do it thoughtfully, this is really about leadership. And this is about funding and leading and directing and convening. And this is about helping people. And so we have to be very thoughtful in how we do that and what we do. And we have to be very resilient and understanding that we have a need to really help people.
Absolutely. And you guys do so much good work. Tell me, you're talking about the work that you do. What role has service played in your life?
Mm-hmm. Service has always played a key role in my life. My father was a Baptist minister, so I saw him serve people, and I saw him really refuse to be a respecter of persons. And when I say that, I mean he didn't care whether you were rich, he didn't care whether you were poor. He knew rich people without question, he knew poor people without question, and he treated everybody the same. And he served them, and I learned early on that was and is a hallmark of leadership.
Absolutely. It's one of the very important ones. You wrote a book, a very great book. It was a great read, called Heroes Wanted, Why the World Needs You to Live Your Heart Out.
Yeah.
Tell us about the book, and why did you decide to write a book in the first place?
Well, I wrote a book in part because I had so many friends, like your brother being one, who had written books and had used those books to say something to the world, to speak to the world. A friend of mine, Wes Moore, wrote The Other Wes Moore, and I saw how that message carried. And I speak a lot, but I saw that a book really could treble that message beyond speaking. And the message that I really want to and still want to impress upon people is that we all are heroes, that we all have the ability to be someone else's hero. In the book, I talk about big H heroes and little H heroes. And that big H heroes are those heroes that we think about who are rushing into a burning building, or who are serving on the front lines in Afghanistan. And those are heroes who are doing something that puts their life or their mental health at risk. Those right now who are serving on the front lines of this pandemic, those essential workers, those in our hospitals, those doctors and nurses, those are big H heroes. But we all have the ability to be little H heroes.
Right.
Be a hero in a small way, be a hero in an everyday way. As you're being a hero by launching this podcast for others. We see people every day. We come in contact with people every day, and how we treat them, whether or not we recognize their needs and we recognize their humanity. That's the opportunity to be a little H hero. I'll end the question with this. When I was in first grade, I had a first grade teacher who realized that I was having a difficult time reading. And she went out of her way and invited me to her home for the summer so that she could teach me to read throughout the summer. And at the end of the summer, I was reading 2 and 3 grade levels ahead of my peers. And she was a hero for me. And so the sense that I can be a hero for someone else, that your listeners, that you can be a hero for someone else, really, I think is germane to who we are as people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also leads into mentorship.
Yep.
Have you had mentors? I know you are a mentor to many people, but have you had mentors? What impact have they had on your life?
I have had mentors and continue to seek mentors, and they've had tremendous impact on my life. In fact, one of the things that I am doing during this pandemic is I'm taking the time to reach back to mentors who I may have had in college or in law school and that I lost contact with. And I want to just call them and thank them. And I've had mentors for seasons that have been years, and I had mentors for seasons that have been a day, or 2, a month. And so find and cultivate mentors, cultivate relationships, because mentorship really, at the end of the day, is a relationship. It shouldn't be just a take, but it's a give and take. And people I know enjoy mentoring and giving of their time and of themselves to those who enjoy and appreciate the fact that you're doing so.
Sure. How would you recommend to graduates to find a mentor?
So I'll tell you what I have done as far as mentors. I am a studier of biographies. I'm really a student of biographies. I love to see people's stories. And I'm also aware of my own interests and passions, and those are varied and multiple, as everybody has varied and multiple passions. But I've looked out to see who's done really well in the area that I have a passion for. And I reach out to them, or I find them in some way or fashion. But I'm relatively unabashed about connecting with people. And I think that's important. And look, if they don't want to connect back with me, that's okay. It's just not meant to be. But oftentimes people will connect back with you, particularly if you cast it as friendship and if you cast it as an opportunity to sit at their feet and listen. And you're never too old to listen. I still listen to people. I still sit at the feet of those who have done great things. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a billionaire. Doesn't mean that you have to be wildly successful. I'm mentored by all sorts of people in all sorts of circumstances.
Yeah, mentoring goes both ways, and many times that relationship is what's important, right? You build the relationship and then everybody gets something out of it.
That's right. I'm going to tell your listeners now that you're a mentor to me, so thank you.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. Okay, so, as students are preparing for the real world, which looks very different from when I graduated, and maybe when you graduated, you're saying that you have been bold and unafraid to just go for what you want. What's another piece of advice that you would give students as they're going out into the world today? Like, what's a skills that they need to either develop or hone as they go out into the real world?
Yes. I think about three things. I think about one, grit and determination. And you're going to need that because this world is a cruel world. It can be a world um, that in some ways, sometimes you feel as if it doesn't want you to succeed. And there will be people who don't want you to succeed. But I've learned and always felt that you don't have to co-sign on my success. I don't need necessarily the cheerleader. We just have to have enough grit to get it done. And the success, secondarily, has to be about more than just yourself. The success is hollow if it's just about you and if it's just personal. So I would encourage your listeners to be a bridge and to be a bridge to someone else. And particularly in this time of quarantine, when we are by ourselves intentionally, we have to think about ways to connect with other people.
I love that. How are you a bridge?
How you bridge. You know, Kashi, you will remember this, that about 3 years ago, the bridge I-85 collapsed.
Yep.
And that was a big deal in the lives of many because it was the way in which I got home.
For everybody who's listening, this was a major intersection in Atlanta, a bridge, like an overpass that collapsed because of a fire.
Yes.
Underneath it, the structure just collapsed. Yes.
It did.
During traffic, right?
During traffic. In fact, I was heading down the bridge. I was heading southward on the bridge for dinner when I saw all the smoke come up, and I thought, frankly, that we had been attacked because it was so much smoke, it was so much fire. But 250,000 people traverse that bridge back and forth every day.
Yeah.
And this notion of a bridge being built on purpose is something that just kind of stuck with me. That bridges are strong, but bridges also are intentionally connecting. And so I suggest to your listeners to be strong and to have grit, but also we have to be connecting as well. So in the same way that a bridge is built on purpose, we need to be purposeful, and it can't just be about us. And we have to be connecting as well. And so I think that's what I would really try and impart to the class of 2020.
That's great. I really love the way you put that. Okay, I think it's time to turn this over to the students and see what they have for us. I'm going to, let's go to Twitter and see what's going on there. Okay, here's one from Lexi.
Lexi.
How do we find balance between focusing on professional growth and personal growth? How do you suggest we navigate this job market after the quarantine ends? There are a few other questions, but let's start with that.
All right. So 2 questions. I heard, how do you find balance? And then how do you navigate the job market? So let's start with the balance piece. People talk about balance, Kashi, but I have not found in my life balance to be what people think it is. I think there are times in which you're going to spend more time with family, and there are times in which you're going to spend more time on the job. And it really depends on the season of life that you're in and the need that you have at that time.
Right.
And so, when you're first starting out and you don't have a family and you don't have a lot of other obligations, I encourage you to invest in your career, invest in who you are professionally. I do think that it's important that we take care of ourselves financially and that we build a financial nest egg, because that builds a sense of peace and a sense of security as well. And so that doesn't mean you have to be wildly rich. Financial security is individual. For some people, it is $1,000, and some people, they aren't secure until they have $1 billion. And so that really is an individual question. But invest in yourself right now. Take that time, have fun, enjoy life, but invest in yourself. And you'll find balance in different times. And it's kind of like a stock. It goes up and it goes down. And you'll at times have more investment at home and less investment at home, but you will continue to go up and to the right.
Sure. My word for that, Rodney, is harmony.
Yes. Harmony. I like that.
Yeah, work-life harmony, or whatever you want to call it. But like you said, I think it all works together. It ebbs and flows.
That's right. That's right. So I love that harmony. I'm going to steal that, my friend.
Please do. It's all yours.
So the next question was, how do you navigate this job market?
Yes.
And I think that's a pressing question for both young and old. The numbers of unemployment are staggering. I think one of the things that I've always found as far as jobs is that people hire people. Mm-hmm. They don't necessarily always hire skills. They don't always hire resume based off of resume or even experience. They hire people. And so I would suggest that you all engage people, find a hiring manager, find somebody at the job that you want to be on, and do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Do virtual calls. I've done a number of virtual calls with people who have sent me messages on LinkedIn or sent me messages on via email. And so to the extent that my time allows, I try and do that. But get to know people, build relationships, and I think relationships will yield results. It's not a quick and easy path. Obviously, you're going to have to have grit and put out your resume and call people and look for job openings. But get to know people and build. A book I recommend to the graduates is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi.
Great book.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Here's one from Miller. How do you measure success in life?
Great question. Kashi, I don't know how you measure it, but I think that success is individually measured. Yeah. That you're going to measure it differently than I'm going to measure it. And knowing you, we may measure it probably in a similar fashion, but everybody has to find their own happiness, their own success, their own definition of such. And oftentimes we get into trouble because we artificially place someone else's definition of success on us. So I commend your folks not to do that.
Totally agree. Okay, here is another one from Sam. What is your most memorable college experience? Dig deep. It can be anything.
I've got a lot of memorable college experiences. So we were playing.
You can share.
I can't. Have to think about this. My most memorable college experience really is graduating from the Air Force Academy and being sworn in as a second lieutenant. So there is a graduation ceremony, but then after graduation, there is a swearing in ceremony where you're sworn into the military. And I've never felt such pride. And quite frankly, I didn't anticipate feeling that pride. That wasn't something that I thought that I would experience. And it was a moment almost of levity in which I was literally kind of off the ground. And so was very proud to have the accomplishment of graduating from college, but even prouder to have the opportunity to put on the uniform and serve in the United States Air Force.
Well, we thank you for your service, obviously.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, Nima, what is one of the best decisions you have ever made?
One of the best decisions I've ever made was marrying my sweetheart from the hospital. So I was born 3 days apart from my wife in the same hospital, Northside Hospital, and I was 5 pounds 9 ounces, and she was about 9 pounds 5 ounces, and we have switched that equation, which I'm very happy about. And I say that God takes care of babies and fools, and I was both at the same time when He introduced me to my wife.
That's great.
So
awesome. Okay, so Betsy is moving from Florida to Seattle,
All right.
and she doesn't know anyone there. How does she prepare for something like that?
Well, first, you're going to Seattle. You need an umbrella
Yes.
because it does rain a lot
And it
there.
rains a lot in Atlanta now.
It
Atlanta to
does,
Seattle.
but so the first thing I would do, because I have had to move a lot, Betsy, and so the first thing I would do going to a new city is to find places where you already have some relationships. So what is there a college chapter there? Is there a sorority chapter there? Is there an organization that you already are a part of or affiliated with? Connect with those people. Is there a neighborhood that you feel really comfortable in and it reminds you of home? Find some place that you can connect with and connect on the job. Get to know people on the job. Sometimes I feel like that's a lost art, but you spend a lot of time with those people. They should be your work family. But I recall when I moved to Boston and I didn't know anybody in Boston. I first connected to my fraternity. I then went to restaurants and neighborhoods that I felt comfortable in. It reminded me of home. And soon I had a wonderful family and wonderful fabric in Boston that I still rely upon to this day.
Awesome. Here's another one. Here's one from Bert. Should I start a company or look for a job during this trying time?
It's a great question, my friend. There's some wonderful companies that are started in the midst of recession. Money is cheap, and you have some time to think on it and to plan on it. My advice would be this, though. My advice would be if you can get a job doing what you want to start the company doing. And so if you want to be in construction, get a job in construction. Learn for 1 to 2 to 3 years, and then go start your own business. So if you have the opportunity to do that, now if you don't have the opportunity to do it, there are lots of businesses that I call businesses of necessity. You had to start something, and that they have done well. And if you do that, then ask for advice, ask for counsel, be humble, and be a sophomore, yet again, learning always.
Yeah. Who inspired you the most on your educational journey? Cassidy would like to know.
My grandmother really inspired me on my educational journey. She told me that education was critically important, and she told me that I should get as much education as possible, and that I should then go back and use that education. And I also, and I write about this in the book, I also talked to Dr. Benjamin E. Mays when I was very young, and my father put him on the phone with me when I was about 6 or 7. And he told me the same thing that my grandmother told me, that I was to get education, but understand that education was not for me. It was so that I could learn, so I could have platform to help other people. And so I have always tried to use education in that way, because education by itself is hollow. A degree is great, but it's just a piece of paper. And so I've never thought too highly about it, other than that every place I've gotten a degree from really came with a complete set of new friends and a network, and an opportunity for me to leverage that network and to be good to those friends.
Oh, that's great. I kind of feel like we should end there. We have like a ton of questions, but
Okay.
But only so much time with Rodney. So I think we'll leave it there and end on that wonderful note about your grandmother. We have a lot of great speakers coming up over the next few weeks. And next week, we are speaking to Danica Comble. Rodney, do you know Danica?
I know Danica well.
Yeah, so she started and runs a very influential influencer marketing agency, and she does a ton of cool stuff, including baked pies.
I was about to say.
Her agency actually has the Guinness World Record for the most socially networked message. So we're going to chat more about that next week.
Excellent.
Yeah, and graduates, I just want to say congratulations again. Best wishes for your next adventure. Let us know what you're up to next. Send us a comment. Remember, it's a blessing to be a blessing. And something that my mom said to me recently was, I'll share this with you. You have the right to your actions, but not to your rewards. So just plant goodness. Yeah.
Very
So
wise.
have a great week. Thank you again, Rodney, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you. Be
Okay.
blessed. Thank you, Kashi.
Thank you.